Good morning, top of the morning to you all on this lovely wintry St. Patty's Day here in North Kawartha. It is March 17th. Welcome to the folks that are mostly joining us online today. Just because the weather's crazy, nobody can make it in. I just want to remind folks that our meetings all of our meetings are recorded and they're uploaded to our YouTube channel. So just be reminded that any comments or opinions that are expressed will be recorded and available for members of the public to hear. And before we get into the business of today's meeting, council would like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, in particular our neighbors from Kawartha Anishinaabe and Curve Lake First Nation. We recognize and honor the original people of this place we call North Kawartha. As duly elected representatives, we follow this Indigenous practice of acknowledgement to foster respectful deliberations, thoughtful collaboration, and wise decision-making in our service to this community. With that, we will move on and disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does anybody have an interest with any of the matters before us today? I'm not seeing any, so we will move on, but you know the deal. If you have one, you need to declare it and remove yourself. With that, adoption of the agenda. I don't believe there's any additions or anything. Is there, Kelly?
No, there's no.
Okay, perfect. Adoption of the agenda, please. Moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Jim O'Shea. All those in favor? The agenda has been adopted. And there are no statutory public meetings scheduled for today. And we do have a presentation. Our MPP Dave Smith is en route in the driving through this crazy weather today. So he's just a little behind schedule. So we will carry on with the business. And then when he arrives, we can jump back to his presentation. So under reports with the Peterborough County report, we don't have a report. Because
there's nothing I can report.
Nothing really public. We had some stuff that was discussed in closed, but it's not anything that we could obviously speak to at this point anyway. So we've got some stuff happening tomorrow at county. So next council meeting, we'll have a more fulsome county report. So with that, we're going to turn it over to Colin for the Crow Valley Conservation Authority report.
Yep, so we did get a bit of an update from the province earlier in the week. So instead of 7 conservation authorities, they're going to be breaking it down into 9. We've got a better idea of how the governance is going to look, and they are making sure that every municipality still has representation. So instead of pulling somebody from each municipality, they're actually going to move it up one level and have the county select representatives. So they would be therefore responsible for the decisions for the municipalities within their county. And then the other update would be more like financial and so we're not allowed to modify our reserves, which makes good sense to me. And we're also not allowed to sell any land while the condensing happens. So they just want to make sure that there's some stability in the conservation system as they do consolidate things.
Can I ask you a question? I was just thinking about that we said it's going to be municipal representation, but at the county level. But how are the municipal levies going to work? Is that going to be uploaded to the county level? So the county will pay on behalf of all of the lower tier and it's just kind of our portion of the county budget, or
To the best of my knowledge, it'll still be going through municipalities.
it still will be, eh?
Yeah.
So we get to fight at the county level who gets to represent. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, Colin, so there'll only be one rep for the 8 townships.
We don't,
We don't, I don't know if it's 1 or 2, but instead of pulling somebody from every municipality, they're gonna use people with regional influence and regional knowledge to try to fill those gaps.
Perfect.
I think there may be a bit of a challenge there when it comes to the funding though.
Oh,
Funding and the representation, I think that might be, but hey, we'll
There
see what
will.
happens.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something we can mention to the MPP when he's here.
And also this, to me, would be the time that if the municipality were uncomfortable with any of this, this is the time when you start to write the letters and advocate, because we know what the direction is.
Yeah.
Rather than assuming the direction, we've got a pretty good idea now, so if there's anything that people want me to bring forward to Crow Valley, just make me
Perfect.
aware.
Okay. Sounds good, Colin. Thank you. Can I have a motion to receive Colin's report? Moved by Jim Wendland, seconded by Ruth Ann. All those in favor? That report is approved or received, I should say. Adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting of council, and it was the meeting that was held on March 3rd. If there are no errors or omissions, can I have a motion to adopt those minutes? Moved by Jim O'Shea, seconded by Ruth Ann. All those in favor? Those minutes have been adopted. Consent agenda. Is there anything on this agenda, consent agenda, that anybody wants to pull out for discussion? I didn't get any heads up before the meeting that anybody wanted to, so seeing none, can I have a motion then to receive the consent? Moved by Jim O'Shea to receive the consent agenda, seconded again by Ruth Ann. All those in favor? Consent agenda has been received, and we are flying right along. We are down into staff reports requiring action, and we have the planning reports. Before, there's two of them. There's actually for consent applications, and I believe we have Forbes Simon, our planner, online with us. Good morning, Forbes. Welcome. Hopefully you're staying warm wherever you are.
Very
can I hear-
blustery, very blustery, Mayor. March is a cruel month. So it is.
You're not kidding.
It's gives you a little peek of what the future looks like, and then it takes it away from you. Anyway, good morning to you. Happy
Good morning.
St. Patty's Day, and all the best to you and your council. Mayor, I'm here for planning report for consent applications B5925 and B6025. Looking at your agenda, Mayor, it contains my original planning report from last year. It doesn't contain an updated planning report that I believe I've submitted, and it was dated February 12th.
Okay.
I'm happy to proceed, but it'll be more of a verbal in terms of
Sure.
recommendation, Mayor. So the applications B20 or B59 and B60 were part of a 3 consent application submission. One was a lot addition. That application proceeded and was approved by Land Division Committee. The other 2 were for lot creation, and it was submitted contingent upon the county official plan policies regarding rural severances being updated. And that has not happened yet. The applicants did proceed with a site-specific official plan amendment that is mirrored the language of the proposed new county official plan regarding severances. That official plan amendment has been approved. We've received confirmation from County Council. And so now it's appropriate to consider the 2 consent applications before you under B59 and B60. They're both standard applications. They represent good land use planning, and there are no outstanding issues associated with these lots being created. The conditions that I'm recommending, and these are conditions that were in my revised report, is that you support the applications, but with recommendation of cash in lieu of parkland being paid to the township for both severed lots in the amount of $800 each, and that they both obtain a zoning bylaw amendment placing them in the rural residential zone. With those 2 conditions, Mayor and Council, I'm quite satisfied with the applications and endorse the applications for your consideration.
All right. Thank you very much, Forbes. And my apologies. I'm glad that you caught that date, because I didn't look at it and I remember thinking, this is deja vu as I'm reading it, but I didn't even look at the date. So appreciate that and appreciate your updated recommendation. And I just wanted to check with Kelly, did you get the 2 conditions just for the motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the cash in lieu for both, and be successful with a zoning bylaw amendment to become rural residential. So does anybody have questions, comments? Colin?
am I able to get a little more detail on how the cash in lieu of parkland works? Normally, even though it's not my favorite process, I'm okay with it.
Mhm.
But the north end of this property does reach into the hamlet zone, so like the parkland may actually be very valuable and more valuable than $1,600 in cash, so. Is anyone able to explain how that works, please, maybe for?
I'm happy to speak to that, Counselor. Cash in lieu of parkland is traditionally used for consent applications. The Planning Act gives council the authority to request parkland in the amount of 5% of the lands being developed. And when you figure that amount of land out for consent applications, it rarely makes sense to use it as a land acquisition unless you're abutting a municipal parkland. And so the tradition with the vast majority of consent applications is to get a cash equivalent that's being estimated in the neighborhood of $800. Council may wish to look at updating that figure going forward, but that's the figure on the books today. If it were a subdivision, Councillor, I would agree with you that you should look seriously at land, but with consents, the amount of land is so small that you would get it. It's not typically deemed realistic to have that provided to the town, and you get the cash instead. Does that answer your question, sir?
It does, and there's another angle here where this actually does abut onto a North Kawartha Township property. But in this case, I don't think it's worth holding up the process. This individual has waited and been very patient, so I'm not gonna slow it down over this, but it's just something to consider in the future, I think.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, any other questions or comments on that? Jim, did you want to?
No, thanks very much, Forbes. I had a whole thing of why we wouldn't just, because we're only a commenting agency really on this thing, so why wouldn't we just approve it in principle with the condition that they get the official plan amendment through, but as you say, it's all through, so I'm very happy to make a motion that council recommends to Peterborough County Land Division Committee the applications B 59-25 and B 60-25 for Tucker.
Okay, be approved with the conditions as.
With the two conditions that Forbes has outlined.
Perfect. Okay, so Jim Whalen moves that. Is there a seconder? Colin will second it. All those in favor? That's approved. And we'll go ahead and do your next application there, Forbes, if you don't mind.
I
think
believe
it's you.
Laura is
Oh.
looking after my next application. Mayor, I will have my leave. Thank you very much.
Okay, go and shovel yourself out wherever you are. Thank you very much, Forbes. And hi, Laura. Welcome back.
Thank you very
Sorry
much.
about that. I didn't realize that was, you get the next one. You guys are splitting it up. So go ahead, Laura, please.
Thank you very much. This is for consent application B-116-25. The recommendation is that council recommends that the County of Peterborough approves consent application B-116-25 for a lot addition with no conditions. The township received the consent application. It's for a lot addition from 79 Harvey Cove Lane to benefiting lands 91 Harvey Cove Lane. All of the property information and roll numbers are in the report. Essentially, it's just a request to transfer about 0.6 hectares to the benefiting property. The proposed retained lot would be 1.8 hectares, which is still a very decent size. And the proposed benefiting lot is 1.4 hectares. So no zone amendment is required. We don't really need to apply any conditions to this. I've included a sketch of the proposed retained and severed. And It is the authority of the County of Peterborough Land Division to review this application and compare it to all of the applicable planning documents to make sure that it conforms. But that being said, I do recommend that we recommend approval.
Okay, thank you for that, Laura. Any questions or comments on this consent application? I'm looking for a motion. Who wants to give me one?
Move the recommendation, Madam Chair.
All right, is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Ruth Ann. All those in favor? That recommendation for approval is approved. Thanks very
Thank
much,
you.
Laura. I think that's
Thank
it for you.
It is. All
It's a
right. Have a great day,
quick
council.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. Okay, and now, without further ado, we are very pleased to welcome our favorite MPP, Dave Smith. It's lovely. He made the trek up to North Kawartha through how many blizzards did you drive through to get here?
No, it was all good. It was all good.
Good.
Was the road good?
The roads have been plowed, yeah. So it was all
Did that just for you.
Just for me.
They knew you were coming.
We passed the plow. It was going south as we were coming north, so
Yeah.
was all good. The real reason that we were a little bit late is that we were supposed to meet at my office at 8:30 this morning to leave, but one of us, not named Dave Smith, had a little trouble getting from Lakefield into Peterborough. So yeah, we'll blame the city on
Oh.
their poor
You're not
just
gonna
snow
blame Mother
removal.
Well, if Dave makes you feel any better, I was late this morning. Jim O'Shea was late this morning.
a bit crazy this morning.
Well, actually, I haven't plowed my driveway yet, so I had to take my wife to work because of that. So it was all good, all good. Great to be back here in North Kawartha. I feel like a rock star. Yeah, great to be back.
One night only.
I wanted to make sure that I got out here before the budget. Our budget is coming out on the 26th of March. For those who don't know, we actually have a requirement that the budget comes out prior to March the 31st. If it doesn't, then our Minister of Finance personally is fined $10,000. And the Premier has said multiple times that Peter Bethlen Falvey is tighter than the skin on a grape. So you know that the budget was going to be released before March 31st, so that he didn't have to pay a $10,000 fine. I've joked that I'm here to tell you what's in the budget. I can share with you that there will be some pictures, some graphs, and some numbers.
Wow.
Yes, I know, it's riveting that way.
Glad you came up.
When we look at it though from the perspective of municipalities, I think a lot of the things that we have been dealing with through our budget process will continue on with that. We know that infrastructure is something that is a challenge for a lot of municipalities. And when we look at someone the size of North Kawartha, you have roughly 4,000 residents, give or take. You have thousands of kilometers of roads that have to be looked after. And the reality is that when we look at that type of infrastructure, when we look at the buildings that you have to have, when we look at the trucks and the equipment that you need to have, that can be a massive burden on the residential property taxpayer. And we do take that into account. Every year we make adjustments to the OMPF funding, to the OSIF funding, because we recognize that there are different needs in different parts of the province. And if we paint everything with that broad brush, we miss out. This past year, as part of the budget process, the Ministry of Finance, between the Standing Committee on Finance and Economic Affairs and our own budget consultations, we hit 35 different communities. With SCOFIA, in particular, the Standing Committee on Finance and Economic Affairs, we were in 12 communities. Peterborough, the city of Peterborough was actually one of them. But we were also in Northern Ontario. We were in Kapuskasing for the very first time. And it's because we want to have that broad feedback on it. It's really easy to sit in Toronto and to listen to everybody in Toronto who thinks the world revolves around Toronto. But you have to get out into the rural parts of Ontario and hear what's going on. And there were a lot of common themes across all of Ontario, especially in the rural parts. There's still some struggles with attracting family physicians or primary care. There's challenges when it comes to infrastructure itself. There's still some hangover actually from some of the things that happened as a result of COVID. And I think when you look at the budget, you'll see that all of that is trying to be addressed. There are other challenges, obviously, what has happened with the United States, with Donald Trump and the things that he has done, has put a lot of our trade in jeopardy. We are not seeing the same level of economic growth in the past 12 months as what we had seen in previous years. That'll be reflected in the budget as well. And when we look across the country, there are 3 budgets that have been released so far. British Columbia, Alberta, and one in Atlantic Canada. And I can't remember whether it was New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, so I apologize for that. They're all posting deficits. British Columbia in particular posted a $13.5 billion budget, or sorry, $13.5 billion deficit. They are roughly a third of the size of Ontario. Alberta has posted a deficit as well. Now, a lot of that is tied to the cost of oil, so they may not actually be in as bad a shape with oil prices going up as quickly as they have in the last couple of weeks. Again, as a result of actions that the orange guy in the US has been doing. But even Atlantic Canada, it was Nova Scotia. They posted a budget deficit of almost 2 billion, about 1.7. To put it in perspective, our economy is 20 times the size of Nova Scotia's. So if we were doing a comparison, as long as we come in under 30 billion, we're beating Nova Scotia. There's key investments, and I know that there's going to be some pushback. I know you're probably going to hear from some of your residents complaining about some of the things in the provincial budget. There'll be questions about why we're spending money on some of the infrastructure that we are. The reality is that you need to continue to invest in things that are going to improve the economy, because at the end of the day, if you don't have your economy doing well, then you don't have the money to spend on the social safety network that we have to. We've also embarked on a review of a number of our different programs to find out what the effectiveness is of them. Are they meeting the key performance indicators? And if they're not, then why are we continuing to fund them? One that probably doesn't affect North Kawartha, but I'll point it out, is yesterday there was the announcement that the CTSs, the injection sites, and the overdose prevention sites are going to be wound down. In the next 90 days, they'll have an opportunity to transition from the other services that they have to something else in the community, or someone else in the community performing those services. But the injection component of it, the drug use component, is going to be wound down. The CTS in Peterborough will be closed in 90 days. And there's a perfect example of where we have taken a look at what the data is showing us and what the effectiveness is of it. With the introduction of the heart hubs, the homeless addiction recovery and treatment hubs, we're seeing some very positive results from those. And what we were not seeing was any data that showed that those who were using the injection site or the overdose prevention, and there were 3 different models, but we were not finding anyone who was going from that into treatment. If you're not building to treatment, if you're not getting treatment, you're not getting better. And I think that we need to be focusing more and more on how do we get people to detox, how do we get people into treatment. One of the statistics is worldwide is that with involuntary treatment, so you are forced into it, it's only 15% who are successful. But the reality is last year there were only 711 unique users of all of the injection sites across Ontario. It was about $35 million that was spent on that. For $35 million, we could put 9,300 people into detox and rehab. If it's only 15% who are successful, that's 1,350. Almost twice as many people would have been helped if we had gotten them to detox and rehab rather than simply having the injection sites. And those who were going to the injection sites were not getting better. They were just being able to use their drugs in a way that didn't allow them to overdose at that time. I think that we need to have a refocus then and have more emphasis on getting people into treatment, getting people into to detox and getting them to a point where they can be sober, because the sobriety portion of it is what's actually going to save their lives. And I bring this up because there's $35 million that can be repurposed into something that perhaps will do a much better job of helping people. And we're embarking on that with a number of different programs to make sure that the money that's being spent is being spent in a way that is actually benefiting the people of Ontario. With that, I am happy to answer any questions that anyone may have. And if you have any suggestions for the budget, I apologize. It's too late for me to get it in. But we do have a fall economic statement that'll come out at the end of October. And I'm always happy to get feedback for that as well on things that we should be adjusting as well. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, start us off, Jim.
Okay, I remember when the injection site was in the news or being looked at. We were told at county council and here that you know, it was going to save hundreds of lives and so on and so forth, and we were going to help people to stop and there wouldn't be the overdose. But talk to an ambulance driver.
Mm-hmm.
So many calls were drug related, and I don't know. I always thought it was an enabler instead of a help, but you know, that's just Jim. Hearing the numbers, it just really doesn't make sense. And I never felt it did make sense, but you know, you gave it a fair try, that's for sure. And I don't have any problem with it personally.
It's interesting you say that, Jim, because the 2 years prior to the CTS in Peterborough opening, we had 42 overdose deaths. Then we had 48 the next year. And I was given that same information from those who were advocating for it, that we would be able to reduce the number of deaths as a result of it opening. We had 54 the first year that it opened. We peaked at 78. We've gone down last year to 72, but 72 and 78 in the final 2 years of it, compared to 42 and 48 the 2 years prior to it opening. I don't think we achieved what people thought that it was going to. And when we look at how is that money being spent and what is the benefit, if we saw that many more people dying from overdoses, then perhaps it wasn't as effective. Now, there'll be arguments that will be made to say that perhaps we would have been at 100 deaths had it not been open. But what no one has been able to give me for statistics is, of the deaths, were any of them regular users of the CTS, and did they overdose and die outside of the hours that it was operating? And the pushback has been that they have to anonymize all of the data. So there was no way to look at someone who was using the CTS facility and then compare that to a visit to the emergency department at a different time. We didn't have that ability.
Anybody else? Questions or comments? I know you have one. You always do. No, go ahead.
I want to, but first I'll start with a comment, and actually a really positive comment. Recently, you guys updated the Ring of Fire Road project.
Yes.
And managed to condense it massively, and sort of are starting to get permits for the beginning while still finishing the study where they end. And I think it's a really good example for governments to be able to follow to streamline their projects. So good work with that. The Buy Ontario legislation. I have two questions. One's pretty simple, I think. When it comes to the section 6 and 7 and the audits and recapture, if a town doesn't sort of follow Buy Ontario, how can you get back into compliance? Do you need to return your bulldozer, or how do you become compliant at that point?
So the way we're approaching it is we want to make sure that wherever possible, we are supporting Ontario businesses, Ontario industry. We recognize that they're just the nature of how our commerce has been set up. There is nothing that can truly be 100% Ontario. And we have to make sure that we're putting companies in a position where they can be as successful with Ontario product as possible, but we don't want to penalize someone who can't get whatever inputs that they need for Ontario. So I'll use a fictitious company, someone who's let's say making trusses for bridges. Yes, there's Ontario Steel that is available, but a lot of times what happens with those companies is that they've had to sign long-term contracts on things. So they may be bringing in product, a portion of the product from the United States. We'll have to grandfather that through, hoping that the Ontario company will transition to Ontario product as well on it. And when we look at that then from the greater standpoint, we recognize as well that with municipalities, you can't always be in a position where you're buying only Ontario based product. You have a process that you're going through right now on whatever your procurement is. We want all municipalities to try and strengthen that and use that as a guiding force, for lack of a better term, on how you do your procurement. We also recognize that you have to look at the actual cost of it. And you are the stewards of your local taxpayers' money. As much as I would love to have all product sourced and developed in Ontario, that's purchased in Ontario, the realities are you still have to be fiscally responsible. And if you can make the justification that varying from that procurement process or that procurement policy is in the best interest of your taxpayers, then we're going to accept that as it is in the best interest, and we're not going to penalize you for it. There are other trade concerns that do get into issues. Obviously, the United States has decided that they're not going to adhere to any of the trade agreements. And if we were to come out with something that said thou shalt not purchase from the US as a result of that, that actually puts us into trade jeopardy as well. And if we're taken to court over it, there's a high likelihood that we would lose. And I'll reference something that is outside of our current situation as a prime example. Ontario had a buy Ontario grape first policy in wine. Australia took us to court because they argued that we were in effect subsidizing the Ontario grape industry and the Ontario wine industry to the detriment of Australia. And we lost that trade challenge on it. So you have to be very careful in how you put your wording together, and you have to allow for exceptions to it so that you're not putting yourself in a position where you have to pay a penalty because you're doing what you think is right for your own population. It's a long way of saying that we want you to try to become as compliant as possible. We want you to try and get yourself to a position where you're giving priority to Ontario, second priority to Canada, and then third to everything else. But you have to do it in a way that doesn't break any potential trade agreements that we have with other countries.
Or break our bank.
Or break everything. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Completely outside comparison, you know, we've had municipalities who want to put a climate change lens on everything that they do. And they'll look at purchasing, just as an example, a hydrovac truck that you dig holes with rather than using a backhoe. And they would be looking at purchasing an electric vehicle instead of a diesel powered vehicle. That would be $500,000 or $600,000 more than the equivalent diesel. And the argument is then made that, well, after X number of kilometers, it becomes cost neutral. And then you find out that the vehicle that they're replacing is 25 years old and has a third of the number of kilometers on it that would require for it to actually get to a point of being cost neutral. So those kinds of things we're trying to discourage, where you have to take a look at the whole picture, not just one aspect of it. So if it's gonna cost you a whole lot more, you have to ask the question why.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any questions or comments? I got just a couple things. And we just actually discussed it earlier, because Colin is vice chair with Crow Valley, and you know, there's the changes that have been announced, and looking for comments. But one of the things, and we just talked about it today, it was announced that the representation is going to move up a level and be at the county level when it comes to, I guess, the boards across the province. But one of the things, and I'm not sure if you guys are looking into it, would be how the levies work, because the levies are all lower tier, and right now we all have representation, right? For that. So there may be some challenges and some issues around that, if you're uploading it, and you know, and how many representatives can you have, and who's paying the most at the lower tier, right?
Right.
That may present some challenges, but yeah, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Colin?
And just something that I think is important to highlight when it comes to international trade and the jeopardy we may or may not be putting ourselves in. With the Australia-Canada, we still have the protection of the World Trade Organization. I don't think that I'm in Davos right now, but if we're gonna look at the world that we actually live in, Canada does not have any protection through the World Trade Organization with the United States. They've been holding back all the judges,
Yep.
and there's been no appeals process since 2019. So anytime that there be a conflict, they can just appeal it into a board that doesn't exist. And so it's a little bit different with Australia and grapes and a nation that is being blatantly non-reciprocal. And I like the Ontario, Canada reciprocal, non-reciprocal, and add another tier in there.
Again, I'm not gonna disagree with you on it, and, you know, the United States has proven multiple times over my lifetime that they don't necessarily follow any of those agreements on it, and the softwood lumber industry is a perfect example of it. Softwood lumber has a 45% tariff on it right now. We have taken the United States to court at the World Trade Organization 3 times. 3 times we have won. 3 times they've had to drop the tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber, and 4 times they have put additional tariffs back on top of it right afterwards, just using a different piece of legislation in the United States to do it, to protect their own interest on it. So you do have good actors and you have poor actors, and it seems that the United States, although Trump has said many times that Canada is very difficult to trade with, they just decide to do whatever they're going to decide to do, and they use whatever means they can to their advantage every time.
And it just very quickly, I do think you guys are doing a good job as somebody that has been paying a lot of attention to this, and I don't mean to come
Yep.
across as critical. It's actually, I'm quite impressed with both the province and federal government and how they've handled this. So again, it's complimentary, but it's an important discussion to have and knowledge to have.
It is, and I think wherever possible, we want to make sure that we're promoting Ontario industry first and foremost, but you know, it's finding that balance.
Yeah, for sure. Another comment I wanted to raise as well, and I think I forwarded an email to you a couple of days ago, I'm not sure if you saw it. The Ontario Geographic Names Board, we're still waiting to find out what the results of the public survey were to rename Raccoon Lake, which was renamed from Coon Lake, and also on Flat Creek Deer River. That's still, we're still trying to like find it. I mean, the last conversation I had, I can't remember the gentleman's name. I was like, just send us the info, whatever the survey was, but send it to our council and let us, you know, determine which name suggestion got the most votes, and we'll do it, right? Because we still have discrepancy with the road name different from the lake name, and we don't want to make a change until we know it's going to stick.
Right.
Right. So you got any updates for us?
The last that I had spoken to the ministry about Coon Lake is it's not going to be renamed.
It's not.
It is not. My understanding is that based on the research that they've done, it was named after an individual. It was named after a family name. They do believe that the spelling was incorrect. But they're not prepared to change the name because there wasn't enough broad-based support for a name change to justify the cost of making that change on everything that would have to be updated, not just local municipal signage, just as an example, but there's a broader side of it. And I'll reference the idiot in the States again. Trying to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. In terms of Flat Creek, that one I do not have any updates on.
Okay.
But we will reach out on that one.
Okay, so let me get this straight, because I mean, that's what I had said, my email from, I don't know how many years ago it was when I said like, whoa, what are you doing making these changes without consultation at the local level, right? But, so you're saying it's not going to be changed, but yet the,
Right.
that's okay.
I
But
thought I
yeah,
turned the ringer off.
The Kawartha Highlands Provincial Park has renamed it, and they have installed signs.
Yes, and they're in all likelihood, going to have to make that change back.
They're gonna make, okay.
Because the court,
Interesting.
they acted without actually receiving official word from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. That was done by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks without talking to
Okay.
the other ministry on it. MECP does not have jurisdiction and should not have authorized Kawartha Highlands to change the signage.
Holy smokes, okay, so let me ask you this then, because as I said, we did a lot of research, and I mean, I couldn't necessarily find the info on talking with our historical society and looking at old maps, but we assume we do have, and we've got a descendant from the first one of the first families, which was the Coons, Thomas Coons, but it was spelled Coones. So if we're gonna put it back, right, can we put it back but make it correct and add the ES on the end? So there's no confusion, because that's, I think, and that's what instigated a lot of this, was
Yeah.
that I was told there were public complaints about it, and that they felt that it was inappropriately named. And yeah, like I said, and here we are, how many years later with a difference, because that's the thing, if we're going to make that change, I could see, even at the local level, us making that updated change even to the road name as well, to make it consistent, and also then to highlight that there is that historical connection, right?
Mhm.
Is there a consideration for that?
My understanding is that they were trying to avoid going through the process of actual renaming it
Yeah.
because of the cost for no benefit.
Okay,
So whether or not they would officially change the spelling, that's something I would have to take back to the ministry on it.
would you please?
I would.
It would be good, because we have a bridge named after,
Yeah.
it was the Coon Bridge, but we actually got it at the county level to change it to Coons, so, and we're gonna have a little plaque there.
Right.
Right, so it'd be nice to be consistent across, so yes, please take that back, and fingers crossed, but. Did you have a,
Well,
Comment?
there's just that there are people named COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, who makes these decisions?
To change the name or to,
No, who comes along and says, that's a terrible name, you gotta change it?
I received an email from a single individual complaining about it, but it was only one individual to my office.
to your office, yes.
To how many people reached out to the ministry, or how many people reached out to the county or North Kawartha, that I don't know. I know that I only received a single, I received multiple emails from a single person
Mm.
who wanted a name renamed. I think we're gonna go through a similar problem in Selwyn, because they have an island named after Prince Andrew. And they're going to, they have started the process to try and change that name.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, okay, well, interesting. I look forward to
That's great.
some updates on that, right? Because it's been, as I said, it's been a long time, so, the only other thing, and I'm trying to figure out how, is there any other news that you can talk about for North Kawartha? That was like, I know, right? Like, are we allowed to talk about any other news about North Kawartha?
I didn't bring my ceremonial giant check, but yes, there has been some funding that has come to North Kawartha. And I suspect you're talking about $50,000.
Yes, I am.
So yes, there is some additional funding coming to North Wharton for that. And I'll let you actually talk about specifically what that 50,000 is being used for.
I'd be
But
happy
I will
to.
touch on some other funding that we did recently announce, and that is the emergency, I guess I'll refer to as emergency relief
Yeah.
from the ice storm.
Yeah.
Good chunk of money coming to North Court. Off the top of my head, I believe it was just over $300,000, but I could be confusing North
No,
Court.
no, it wasn't 49,000.
Okay.
I wish it was 300,000. That would make this 50,000 bail, but.
Yeah, make that correction.
Well, I think Terry Lamb's head would be quite upset with that.
Jim
Yeah.
Martin that got it, so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I've had some people reach out to us and question why the money is coming now and why the money didn't come the week after the ice storm. And the reality is there were a lot of expenses that a lot of different communities had, but they didn't know exactly what those expenses would be. And the perfect example I'll give on it is for a period of time, green waste was allowed to be taken to the Bensford Road dump at no charge.
Yeah.
But just dropping off the green waste didn't actually get rid of the green waste. There was about 6 months worth of work to chip it and get rid of the proceeds from it. And that takes time to go through. It really wasn't until close to Christmas that all of the expenses came in from all of the different municipalities across Ontario. And we didn't want to do it piecemeal and give some money to one area, not to another area until later on, because that would have created a lot more questions. So it took a couple of months after all of the expenses came in for us to go through, figure out what was actually a legitimate expense, what was not. Not to say that a municipality didn't pad it, but some municipalities probably included, and I can think of one in particular, who probably included some expenses for other things that they were trying to accomplish that really weren't a result of the ice storm. I struggle with replacing some of the stormwater infrastructure because trees came down. That probably wasn't.
Well, I know it wasn't North Court that we got the
It was.
stormwater infrastructure.
It wasn't in our area or it wasn't in my riding where that
Yeah.
was actually one, but yeah, some municipality did try to have the rehab of their some of their stormwater in an area that wasn't affected by the by trees coming down. That's probably, give them credit for being creative in finding ways to fix that
That's
infrastructure.
politicians for you.
Right. Well, I mean, it totally makes sense. I mean, Jason, he's our deputy CAO, but also was public works manager. But how long were you guys doing that cleanup? It was well into like the summer.
May,
If you're, well, it was like
from the end of March till middle to end of May.
yeah,
Right.
it was ongoing and then delaying everything else, right? With that cleanup, and same thing with our cottagers, like we were collecting the waste for free up until we changed to winter hours, I believe, at the transfer stations, right? Cause it's a lot, and you still, I'm sure you probably saw it when you drive up, I mean, the scars are still there on the landscape, right, from it, so, but connected to that, and which hopefully will, which should set us up to be better prepared in the future. You did give us $50,000 and it was a community emergency preparedness grant. So some of the things that covers is the Wilson Park radio tower upgrades, radios for more departments like Parks and Rec, chainsaw and maintenance kits. There's and my favorite is the chainsaw operator training course, and which I'm signing council up for. We're all gonna learn.
I'm happy to be the test area for people to try.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I lost 72 trees during the storm. I've only been able to take down 40. So I still have 32 more that need to be dropped and limbed and chipped. So, if you need a test area for the chainsaw training course,
I think we got
happy to do it.
areas around here too, but anyway, but no, thank you very much. Very much appreciated, and we're definitely gonna put that to good use. So I really do appreciate the support from you and from the province, and because we need it, like you said, small community, small population, but big size. And when
Yeah.
things hit, like when Mother Nature does her thing, right, it hits us pretty hard. So it's great to have that support. So any other questions or comments for Dave?
I actually use North Kawartha as an example a lot. When we're talking in the Standing Committee on Finance and Economic Affairs about some of the funding. You have 3.6 people or residents per square kilometer here in North Kawartha. The Toronto St. Paul's riding has 17,400 people per square kilometer. So the challenges that you face here are significantly different than what they are in downtown Toronto. And we use that example a lot when we have members from other parties talking about we should be doing things on a per capita basis, because you would really just be devastated if we treated you the same way as we treat downtown Toronto.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you. We appreciate that you understand our situation. So with that, can I have a motion to receive the presentation from Dave Smith? Moved by Jim O'Shea, seconded by Colin. All those in favor? It's received. And we do have a little token of our appreciation. It's not $50,000 worth of swag, but hey, you know what? There's some lovely stuff in there. There's actually a tube in there which might come in handy today. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. All right, now go enjoy the sunny weather now.
I'm gonna go home and plow my driveway.
Get her done. Okay, thanks so much. All right, well, that's great. I love when he visits and gives us money. Hang on, I gotta get back to the screens here and we'll get back onto the agenda. And where are we? We are going back to, are we okay? Do you want to take a break? I think we should take a 5-minute break. Because it is about 10:30, it's about that time. Yep, perfect. I'm gonna declare a 5-minute recess.